Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Psalm study. I'm Pastor Eric Kleinschmidt from Redeemer Lutheran Church in Highland, Indiana, and today we're studying Psalms 46 and 47, two shorter psalms, which fits in very well with my schedule today. It's a very busy week here at Redeemer. We have a funeral coming up Thursday, Friday. We have confirmations starting up. I have people coming in for instruction classes. We got 5 or 6 baptisms coming up this month alone. So I got about 45 minutes, maybe. So we're going to try to get through these two rather short psalms in good order and still give you something to chew on with the psalms in your study today. I will put the worship link up from this past Sunday up above, and let's jump into Psalm 46. Psalm 46, we're told, is to the choir master. So once again, we know it was used in worship, or at least that it was prepared for worship. Written by the sons of Korah, and we've talked about them before, that Korah led a rebellion and the earth swallowed him up, but yet there were parts of his family that apparently didn't go along with his rebellion and were saved, and they go on to become very accomplished and popular, I would say, psalmists, which is a wonderful story of redemption right there. It also has this superscription, according to Alamoth, a song. We don't really know what Alamoth is, like many of the instructions and liturgical directions in the book of Psalms. However, this term Alamoth is used one other place. It's only used twice in the Old Testament. Once is here in Psalm 46, and the other is in 1 Chronicles 15. So we're going to jump there, and we're going to see what it says about Alamoth to see if we can figure out what this word is. But before we do that, the last part of the superscription, a song. This indicates to us that this was meant to be sung only with voices, apparently not with musical accompaniment. And what that actually meant, we're not so sure. But Alamoth gives us a hint. So let's jump to 1 Chronicles 15. This is a very important event in the life of Israel, that the Ark of the Covenant is being brought to Jerusalem by David. Okay? He prepared a place for it. He did not build the temple. His son Solomon would do that. But David did bring the Ark to Jerusalem, which would become the center of all of Israelite worship. It is where God lived, and it's also where God dies. It's so important that Jesus comes into Jerusalem. He rides into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. This right here, 1 Chronicles 15, the ark, the container that contains all the promises of God, is coming into God's city. Just as Jesus, on top of the donkey, rides into Jerusalem. He is the embodiment of all the promises of God, and all the power of God is there in Jesus. And David also rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, okay? And so that is one of the reasons why Jesus comes into Jerusalem that way. He is of the tribe of David. He is the rightful king, but he's also a king of heaven and earth, which is what the people don't fully understand. But all of that history and symbolism is tied up, and here we see the ark coming into Jerusalem. All right, so we're giving all the people that are coming, all these lists of how many people came in this procession, right? We get down to verse 12. We're talking about the Levites, and we're bringing the ark, okay? The Levites purify themselves. The Levites carried the ark of God. All right, so they're coming in. David commands that they have singers and play loudly on musical instruments, on harps and lyres and cymbals to raise songs of joy. So the priests appoint certain people, Heman, the son of Joel, okay, brothers Asaph, the son of Berechiah, right? All of these people, okay? So we have them all arranged. The singers, Heman, Asaph, Ethan, were sound bronze cymbals. Zechariah, Aziel, Shemariroth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Masiah, Benaniah, sorry, were to play harps according to Alamoth, right there. So they're playing harps according to Alamoth. That doesn't tell us anything other than Alamoth was a known musical arrangement or style. Okay? Here we see that these other guys, I'm not going to pronounce all those names, were to lead with lyres according to the Sheminith. Okay? Sheminith, right? So that's a different style. Unfortunately, we don't really know what that refers to. However, in the Hebrew, Alamoth translates to something according to the maidens, okay? According to the young ladies. It might mean for soprano voice, okay? Because remember, back in Psalm 46, a song, this is meant not to have musical accompaniment, but it is meant for an arrangement specifically prepared for a maiden's voice. Okay, that's the best I can give you. All right, that's as close as we come to knowing what that word means. But imagine this song being sung very, very lightly and beautifully by a bunch of young ladies, okay? And they sing, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. What comforting words are there? Again, we have that depiction of a mighty fortress is our God. Us Lutherans always go to that imagery. But God is not far off, that he is present. That presence, the God who is with us, is very important in Christianity. Remember what name Jesus is given, that his name will be Emmanuel, which means God with us. Okay? So throughout the Old Testament, God is a deity that is constantly reminding his people that he is with them, that he will be with them, that he will be close by them. He is not a God who is far off and ignoring them. He's not on the top of Mount Olympus doing his own thing and only plays with people's lives for amusement here and there, okay? No, he is a God who is very personal and with us. So much so that for 33 years in our history, he was actually walking around on earth and those people could touch him. They could hug him. They could shake hands with him, right? They could sit and eat with him. God was right there with them. Now, it's not as if God has left. When Jesus ascends, he doesn't say, well, I'm leaving you all alone and good luck, guys. Okay? He says, I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. I will send the Paraclete, the Helper, the Holy Spirit, who will guide you. And more than that, right before he dies, and they think, oh, this is the end, he gives them a sacrament, which comes from the word mysterion, mystery. He gives them a mystery and says, this is my body, this is my blood. And so even though you do not see me in this bodily form, that walking and talking around you that I have these last 33 years, I am not leaving you. I am still with you. And so every week at Redeemer, when we come together and we have that sacrament, that mystery, that miraculous way that our God is still present, bodily present with us. It's so important. Jesus says, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. I will never leave you. So that present, a very present help in trouble, is so important. It's very different from all the false religions of the world, where God is out there somewhere and maybe from time to time he cares about us, but most of the time he's doing his own thing and who gives a rip, right? Whatever. Our God is a refuge and strength, and he's right here, especially when we are in trouble. Because of that, we will not fear, though the earth gives way, that the earth just shoots out from amongst our feet. All right? The earth gives way. Remember who's singing this? Well, who wrote it? Okay, the young ladies are singing it, but who wrote it? Sons of Korah. The sons of Korah witnessed their father standing over an earth that gave way and swallowed him up. So to use this language and say, we're not going to be afraid, even though this is very real for this family. All right? So kind of a neat little reference for them to use this language in their psalm. But we understand that even though things rock and move and are uncertain, that we stand confident, or at least that's what they're praying for. We often pray for things that we don't have, right? If we had them, we wouldn't have to ask God for them. So peace, security, serenity, patience, kindness, self-control. We pray for those things because we might have them in some measure, but we always want them in abundance, right? In the New Testament, most of the New Testament is written to churches, and they start off with Paul praising them for these things, but he's also praying for them because they don't have those. So it's, oh, yes, I've heard of your goodwill and your love for everyone else, but here I'm going to write to you about all the problems that you're having in your church. So you need an increase of goodwill and an increase of love in your congregation. And they're praying for it because they do not have it. So we have in part, but we want in abundance, right? So though we state we will not fear, we're always asking for more confidence, God. Though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. This also gives us a picture of the end of the world when all of this will pass away, and yet Christians are confident because we know that the new life awaits us because Christ is living, and therefore that new life is ours. This psalm is really split into three parts, and we see them with this word Selah, that word that we're not really sure what it means again, but rest or refrain or something. So Selah, Selah, Selah. Three parts. This first part is really a prayer for confidence. God, give us more confidence. We are confident, absolutely, but God, we need more. Please give us more, okay? So we are confident, but God, please increase our confidence. Rest. Now the next part, the next petition of this prayer. This is all about praise for God's power. It reminds us who we're praying to. So this part, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. City of God, we want to think Jerusalem, but we also want to think our heavenly home, okay? Also everywhere where God is present, okay? So your own congregation, right? That we are the city of God. A river whose streams make glad. So we have that imagery of constant nourishment. Jerusalem, oddly enough, did not have a river that goes through it. Okay, it has springs, but it was not a city built on a river. It was a city built on a hill. Okay, so this is referencing more of an eternal home, but also we have that picture of God's nourishment flowing to us. The river language is wonderful for us to understand our relationship with God. Rivers flow one way. They have a source and they have a delta, right? And it goes from point A to point B. Everything downstream receives. It does not give back. It simply receives. So if God is the source and we are the delta, okay, think of Mississippi Delta, right? We simply receive from God. We don't give him anything. We don't offer anything. We don't kick back anything up there to make our relationship with him work. He simply gives. We are glad to receive. It's the river language of flowing from point A to point B. God is the source, and we are the beneficiaries. Such wonderful language. God does everything and gives everything for us. The holy habitation of the Most High. Remember, this is a psalm meant for worship, being in God's house, where God lives. We're connected through that word alamoth to the place where God's temple is, where his tabernacle is, where his Ark of the Covenant is in Jesus' time, okay, Jerusalem, all right, and also heaven, being with God forevermore. So we have past, present, future, all represented in this psalm. And there's a locality to God. There's a presence to God. That is so important. Since God is in the midst of this city and all the people around there, her, we can think the church, us, we are included in that word her. She shall not be moved. We have nothing to worry about. God is with us. Who can stand against us? God will help her when morning dawns. The nations will rage, the kingdoms will totter, but he utters his voice and everything melts. It passes away. Again, a depiction of the end of the world, but also of God's absolute sovereignty, his absolute control and authority and power over everything that he has created. And we are at the center of that. We are the center of God's world. That is so amazing to me, that all of this universe revolves around what happened on this planet, in Jerusalem, on that dirt, and then that God orchestrates everything around us because we are his prized creation. What a wonderful picture that the cosmos revolves around God's people. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Whenever we see God of Jacob, we think the promise, the Old Testament promise given to Jacob, the fulfillment of the promise given to Abraham, every promise that God made going all the way back to Genesis to Adam and Eve. Okay, so God of Jacob is our fortress. The God of promise, of fulfilled promises, is our fortress. He will not fail us. And then Selah, rest. The third part is that deliverance and the resulting peace. Okay? So we are in need. We're praying for confidence. We pray to a God who's delivered in the past, and he will deliver us. And now we have peace in the third part of this prayer psalm. Come, behold the works of the Lord. See how he has kept his promises in the past, how he has brought desolations on the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. All language about conquest. In our Sunday morning Bible study on the book of Numbers, we're just starting the conquest of the promised land, okay? And so there's that imagery there. Burning the chariots or drowning the chariots. Certainly we think Red Sea deliverance in Egypt. All of these places, these terrible instruments of war that people trembled at, God just snaps them in half. Doesn't matter to him. And he's done this over and over and over. And these people, these Hebrew people, have witnessed that throughout their history. And they're recalling that here. He is a God of promise and fulfillment. And then we have this wonderful verse that many of you probably have heard. You may even have it a picture on your wall or something, right? Be still and know that I am God, right? I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress, Selah. But let's go. We like that verse 10, right? Be still, then I am God. It's calming to us. It reminds us, let God do what God's going to do, that he's got it. He's not going to let you fall. Interesting enough, that Hebrew word for be still can be translated as to let fall or let drop. Or even if you're a fan, if you have young children, let go. I've not seen Frozen. I'm sorry, I've never seen it. But that song, Let It Go, something, 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 let it go, something, 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 whatever it is, you could translate, let it go and know that I am God. The interesting thing about that word is it could also be translated along the lines of cease to strive, cease to work, cease to bang your head against a wall in a way. The implication there is stop trying to do it yourself and let God do it. Let go and let God, right? There you go. It's right there in verse 10. But most translations probably do the be still and know that I am God. But the the Hebrew there gives us a little bit more of stop trying to solve it yourself and let God do it. Okay? Calming, very wonderful, calm. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. This is kind of a refrain for this psalm. And again, it goes back to the promise. He is a God of promise. And then we rest, knowing that he will deliver because he has in the past. All right? So Psalm 46, a wonderful, calming psalm about God's protecting his people, about us being the center of God's world. Just beautiful, beautiful language that the sons of Korah give us to help us be still and be calm and not fear, though everything around us may be falling apart. What a wonderful psalm for what's going on these days. We're going to take a commercial break, pop on over, and I'll see you on the next side for Psalm 47. Welcome back. Hopefully that all recorded and played back just fine for you. We're going to keep on trucking. I'm under a deadline today, so sorry if I'm moving a little bit too fast. One of the great benefits of having this this medium, this video, is that you can always pause me, rewind if you miss something. And I suppose if I'm waxing boredom and you're like, I don't know what he's talking about, but it's not really interesting, there's always that fast forward button down there that you can clip ahead a little bit. It's okay. It's all right. I don't mind. All right. Let's get into Psalm 47. Oops, wrong one. There we go. All right. All this time, and I'm still learning those little buttons to make the transitions. Okay, Psalm 47. If our last psalm was a psalm of peace and tranquility, this psalm is a psalm of promise and inclusion. That's a very big word, popular word, be inclusive these days, right? This talks about God just being king over everything possible, something that we all understand. To the choir master, so we know it used in worship, of the sons of Korah again. Okay. So we know who wrote it. Verse 1, clap your hands, all people, shout to God with loud songs of joy. We are going to have a lot of language in here about praising God loudly together. It's about worship. Lutherans don't like to clap in church. We think that it's something wrong with that. When something good happens, you kind of hear the one, and then other people are kind of looking around like, oh, okay, we can clap. All right. But then stop. We're done. We're done. Time to get back to stern German worship, okay? But yes, clap your hands, all people's joys. Shout to God with loud songs of joy. Not just but sing out, even if you're not a trained singer, right? Why? For the Lord the Most High is to be feared. This is a tough word for Christians to understand. All my confirmation students, when they learn Luther's Small Catechism, we should fear, love, and trust God above all things, right? They say, well, should I be afraid of God? Is God going to hurt me? And that word, to be feared, really means to be revered. But it does have that connotation of being terrified, because God's holiness is terrifying to sinners. It should be, it has to be, and it is. We also are to fear those in authority. That means have a healthy respect because they have authority over us. Okay? The Bible says you should fear the one in authority, for he does not bear the sword in vain, meaning that the government does have the right to end the lives of its citizens under certain contexts and for certain reasons. Okay? So because of that, we have a respect for those people who exercise that authority. In our day and time, it would be police officers and judges and magistrates, things like that. I got pulled over relatively recently. I was up in Wisconsin for my brother's wedding, and in a strange town that I hadn't been in like 15 years, and they had changed everything around, and it was at night, and we were trying to find milk for my son because we forgot it, and everything was closed, and I was speeding, and I went around this roundabout, and apparently I did it wrong. I crossed a line somewhere, and one of Chippewa Falls' finest officers pulled me over, and I did not have any fear of that he's going to shoot me. Okay, I don't have that. But I still, when he came up, I understand that he has that authority. He has that responsibility. I don't want that to happen to me. And so I put my hands up on the dashboard. I had the light on so he could clearly see that I was not reaching for a weapon or anything like that. When he asked for my license and registration and insurance, some of that was in the glove box. And I said, hey, do you mind if I'm going to reach in the glove box? And he shined his flashlight down there as I did that. He obviously saw I was not pulling a gun out or anything. So the exchange was absolutely professional, and I explained what I was doing. He said, okay, that makes sense, just pay close attention. And he told me where I could get some milk at a gas station down the road. Wonderful interaction. But even though I had no fear, I still have that respect because I understand that he does bear the sword and he has the authority to do that. So that fear extends to those in authority over us. So government, parents, pastors, okay, in that way, that authority comes from God, and so we respect it and we fear that authority. And that doesn't mean that we have to be afraid, but it's a healthy reverence. Okay, so fear is to be revered and trusted and looked up to, but also there is that terrifying aspect. He's a great king over all the earth, everybody, okay, not just the Hebrew people. He subdued peoples under us, nations under our feet. He chose our heritage for us, the pride of Jacob whom he loves. God's chosen people. Okay, we're talking about the Hebrew people, and they're going, yep, we conquered the lands, and this is our God. Rest. Okay? God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with the sound of a trumpet. That's how they went into battle when they conquered the promised land. They took the Ark of the Covenant, the presence of God before them, and they shout and they blow trumpets, and like the walls of Jericho just fall down, okay? They have that in their history. They remember that. And so sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. Again, Hebrew people make superlatives. They good, better, and best by repetition and multiplication. So they're amplifying the praise. I can't hear you, that sort of thing is what's happening here in verse 6. For God is the King of all the earth, sing praises with a psalm. That word there is actually maskil, which is the same word that's up here, of maskil of the sons of Korah. Again, we don't really know what exactly a maskil difference between that and something else. But we translate it here as a psalm because that's what it means. Sing this type of praise to God. Okay? 8 and 9 are these wonderful verses of inclusivity because we're about to see something that is absolutely important for most of us watching this video today. God reigns over the nations, all the nations. They all come from Adam and Eve, and yet some rejected the true God of promise and went off after idols, and God, through Abraham and Isaac and then Jacob and all that, he keeps his chosen people, and he says, I will be your God and you will be my people, right? Okay. God is still the God of everybody that lives, even if they don't recognize that. He still sits on his holy throne, and he will in the last day and judge both the living and the dead. But look what happens here. The princes of the peoples gather. So we're talking about people outside of Hebrew people, okay? So the nations gather as the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth, so the kings, the princes who protect other people, the shields of the earth, they all belong to God, and he is highly exalted. But this little language right here, as the people of God of Abraham, they gather. We're talking about Gentiles here. We're talking about people outside of the initial promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're talking about us. We're included there, and we are included as the same way as Abraham and his descendants. We are descendants of Abraham by faith. The promise given to Abraham, the promise that God gave at the very beginning, is ours by faith in Jesus Christ. So much of the Old Testament we think of being written about the Jews and for the Jews. And then the New Testament, that's where we Christians get included. The disciples had that revelation too when they were critiquing Paul's work among them. And Paul came and Peter and James are like, why are you going to all these Gentiles? And what are you saying to them? And Paul says, this is what Jesus told me to do. And here's what I'm preaching. And they go, so the gospel is meant for the Gentiles as well. Thanks be to God. Go, Paul, and let's send other people out. And that's why us Germans and whatever you happen to be, okay, the gospel, the promise, the God that has done all this amazing stuff in the Bible is yours. He's present for you. And it's in that language right there. The princes of the peoples gather as the people of the God of Abraham. We're included. The Old Testament is not just for the Jews. That is our heritage as Christians, and that is our God of promise. And it's so wonderful. It's so inclusive. Like the whole world. Jesus died for the sins of the whole world, so everybody in the world can be saved by him, right? Through faith in him. The whole world is saved. What a wonderful psalm. So that wonderful inclusivity of people who don't have Hebrew blood. Although, since we all go back through Noah, and we all go back to Adam and Eve, we all go back through Hebrew people. We all have Hebrew blood. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all part of the human race, okay? So the God of promise is ours. And let's see each other that way, and let's treat each other that way, and let's tell our brothers and sisters that Jesus is the only way to the Father, that we come through him, through faith in him, for he is the way, the truth, and the life. And so it's so important for all of us children who were given the original promise to go through Jesus back to the God in the Old Testament who gave it, right? Because Jesus is the embodiment of that God. He is God in the flesh. He is the embodiment of all God's promises, and he is our brother. And so that's so wonderful that we are included and connected to that whole history of the Old Testament. I could go on a lot, but I'm going to stop here. And I got another appointment in 8 minutes. So I got 8 minutes, all right? God bless you. Thank you for watching. I'll put the link to last week's Bible study up above, and continue to like and share with other people you think might enjoy a rather pinball study through the book of Psalms. Take care, and God bless.